Good afternoon, and welcome to this council meeting for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich, June 28th, 2023. It is now 5 p.m., and I will ask our clerk, Tara, to open the meeting, please.
Moved by Drouillard, seconded by Loveland, that the meeting of the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich opens at 5 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? I see none. Clerk Tara, is there any items not listed on the agenda?
There are none.
Thank you. At this time, I have the honor of presenting an Ontario Senior of the Year Award to Lynn McCann. This is the good part of my job, Lynn. I can't begin to list all of the things you do in this community, but certainly the Daffodil Society is top of list. And I'll give you an opportunity to speak in a few minutes. And I think everybody would like to know all that you do in the community. But anyway, we do have an award and a presentation we would like to present to you. It's the Ontario government. Okay. A few words, please.
Well, I'm very honored. Thank you very much. I know there's a lot of other people that are really worthy of this award, and I am very honored to get it. I don't know what else to say. I do volunteering at the Daffodil Auxiliary, as all of you know, which is a very worthwhile cause for our community. And the support that we get from the municipality and from everybody in Dutton is just super. We really appreciate it. I'm also on the board for the Hort Society, which again, we appreciate from the municipality and everyone for all of their help to try and beautify the town. I'm on the Fair Board, which all of you know, I'm sure, and that's another really interesting association to be on. We do a lot of good things for the community, and the fair is a big highlight, and thankfully we're back at having the fair again. So other than that, I do the usual volunteering at my church and a few other associations.
Community garden.
The community gardens, yes. Well, we benefit really a lot from the community gardens at Daffodil. So thank you very much, and I appreciate it. And I'm hoping there's other people that would get the award too, because there's a lot of good people, seniors out there that still do a lot of good. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
I just want that.
Okay, we'll move on to number 6 on your agenda is PSD Citywide Incorporated, and we're going to discuss asset management, and we have Jeff with us. Jeff, take it away. Floor is yours.
Great. Good afternoon, everybody. Should I share my screen and presentation? Is that the preferred approach?
If you would like, otherwise I can do it for you.
Okay, I can do that. That's okay. Oops. So everybody should be able to see my screen.
Yep, it's good.
Excellent. Well, thanks everybody for having me today. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with everybody in the room. Again, congratulations, Lynn. So a little bit about us. So PSD Citywide, we're Ontario-based company. I'm actually up in London, Ontario, just in South London. Had intended to come down today, but unfortunately couldn't make it. But Canadian company, Ontario-based. We've been in this organization or this industry for a little bit over 20 years. And really what we do is we focus on two main industries. We're looking at everything related to asset management advisory services. So working with the province and working with local governments to develop asset management plans, build capacity, look at implementing best practices and institutionalizing asset management as a practice for local governments. And we also work on software systems, whether it's strategic asset management, it's maintenance management, it's budgeting. At last count, we're working with close to 70% of the province here in Ontario. As an organization, about 120 staff, locations across Canada, quite a few regional offices as well, including here in London, Burlington, Victoria. So what is asset management? We wanted to talk a little bit today about what is asset management, and how do we relate it to the municipality. So when looking at asset management, really it's service management, and I think probably most folks in this room have heard it. They probably do their own asset management on their own assets, whether it's house or businesses or residential. But really, asset management at the end of the day is a conduit for the service. We're looking at how do we manage these assets? How do we make sure that there's clean drinking water that arrives at the tap when a citizen turns on their water? There's not interruptions, that our local arenas, community centers are available. We don't have failures of assets, that our roads are smooth. Roads is typically a good one that people think about. When we go to drive to work every day, we want that road to be free of potholes. We want a smooth path to be able to drive and get to work safe and on time. But really looking at how do we manage those assets so they can keep delivering that service that our citizens are expecting. And what that involves at the end of the day is typically a lot of processes, procedures, practices to really help us define how do we manage those assets in a consistent and typically a practical way. We need a way to measure the performance of those assets. So typically in an asset management world, we talk about performance as the condition. So what's the current condition? What's the average PCI of our roads? Or is that asset in good working condition and expected to remain in good working condition? We look at risk. What is the risk to the community if it failed? And what's the consequence if it happens to fail? It's ultimately a very sophisticated and coordinated effort. It takes a multidisciplinary team looking at finance, looking at engineering, looking at GIS, bringing all those data sets together to be able to bring that into a good decision-making framework. At the end of the day, all we're looking to do is achieve the lowest cost of ownership of our assets. We know if we're doing the right thing at the right time, it's going to cost our citizens less if we're making a data-based decisions. And well, why is it important? Why do we care about it? A little bit of context. So if we look at these stats, these are a bit older, but looking at 1.1 trillion total value of core municipal assets across Canada, 80K shared value of the same assets between households. If we break that down for Dutton Dunwich, I think I was looking at your AMP for 2014, and I know there's a new one that's in works, but looking at the old data, it had a total replacement cost of $84 million. Now, if you apply inflation to that, we're probably closer to 105. And then looking through the AMP, I know there's a lot of assumptions made of componentization of facilities and pump stations. So I think it's probably pretty safe to say the true value of the assets for Dutton Dunwich are maybe closer to 150 million, maybe 140. I'm sure that'll come out with the asset management plan. If we break that down per household, we're probably around that 80K value of assets per households within the region. So it's pretty substantial. There's a lot of assets that we need to manage. And I think the number of 35% of municipal assets are intention and need is pretty accurate. A lot of our assets are getting near the end of the life. We need to start thinking about the strategies of how we're going to manage them. Are they going to go into our backlog? Maybe we're not going to replace them right away, but where are we going to focus our dollars? And so this creates a lot of challenges for local government. First of all, it's an ongoing effort. It's not, hey, we did our AMP, we're good, we checked the box, we're moving on. It's an ongoing process where we need to be looking at what are the trends. You know, are we trending in the right way? Is our condition going up over time, remaining static? What's the risk look like? And it can be very time consuming for staff, especially if they don't have the right tools to be able to manage that portfolio of assets, but also effective planning of what they need to do at the right time with those assets. The consequences are pretty severe too. We know if we have poor data, we're making a lot of assumptions with our decisions. And with poor data, staff can only present what they know to council. And oftentimes, sometimes we don't have great data, so it sends us down the wrong path. We maybe fix an asset that we would have been better off to let deteriorate a little bit further. And ultimately can really lead to disruptions or failures with our assets. Okay. The other reason, actually, before I move on, and so really the benefits of having that formalized system, and I won't read all of these, but just being able to have better access to information on our assets. The big one for me and for a lot of my clients is that accountability of processes. We have well-defined processes of how we're going to manage our assets. It's consistent when we bring 5 sidewalk projects to council. We factor in all these life cycle planning, replacement costs, risk and prioritization. We know why we want to pick these 5 projects. It aligns with our asset management plan, and we know we're picking the right systems. Okay. The other thing is the ability to optimize limited resources. At the end of the day, if we're doing this the right way, it's actually costing us less dollars each year to manage these assets. Another big one too, which I think a lot of Ontario municipalities are dealing with, is making sure that this knowledge is not lost with staff changes. We see a lot of clients where they've got staff that have been there for many years. They know the systems inside and out. It's not written anywhere. They leave, they retire, that knowledge walks out the door. So having that formalized approach, whether it's formalized processes that are documented and even software, make sure that we've got that approach to how we want to manage our assets documented. And even with staff changeovers, we're not losing that information. The other reason why we want to do it is we have to. I'm sure folks are pretty familiar with this requirement, so I won't spend a lot of time here, but the province has outlined those 3 key deliverables or key stakes or timelines that need to be met. There's a 4th one as well, but looking at 2022 and 2024, which I know is an ongoing project for folks right now, what the province is asking us to do is to define what is our current levels of service. And typically that can be a community or technical level. Our roads are smooth to drive on. Maybe we want to reduce the amount of potholes complaints that we've got per year. So in order to do that, we've got to make sure that we follow this mill and pave approach to our assets. So it's really about what are the current services that we're delivering, how are they performing, and what is it costing us to do that? And that's for core assets and non-core. Non-core, things like facilities, the pump stations, potentially being able to componentize those out is really important, because in order to get really accurate replacement cost data, we want to know all the individual components of that asset. So I think about that as a facility. Well, we've got a roof, we've got foundation, we've got windows, we've got HVAC systems. Each of them have their own unique useful life, their own replacement costs, and being able to forecast that out per category is really important to be able to produce an accurate AMP. 2025 is where it gets very complex for some local governments. Prior to this, we had to report on what is our current levels of service, what are we delivering, and what's it costing us. Now what the province wants us to do is to come back and say, well, we need to engage with the public in some manner. Council probably is going to have to decide in what manner, but that could be in the approach of surveys, that could be in the approach of a workshop with citizens. But we need to collect their feedback and say, if we were to, for example, increase the condition of the roads, would you be open to paying an extra $500 on your taxes? Yes or no? Having those right questions ready will help Dutton Dunwich be able to manage that conversation and be able to define those proposed levels of service. But in order to come to that conclusion, tools really help. Tools allow you to define, well, what is my life cycle approach? What are the things we need to do to our roads? And when would we do them? And what does it cost us? And looking at that, what will that cost us in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years? And can we afford these proposed levels of service that maybe the citizens are asking for? So this 2025 AMP is really taking that together and saying, here's what we've agreed on for levels of service. Here's how we're going to manage our assets, and here's how we're going to pay for it. Now, the other piece that comes with that is we've got 10 years to get to those targets. So having tools to help be able to report on our progress is quite helpful. Okay. When I break down these asset management practices into the key practices, and again, some folks may have already sat in training and quite familiar with this, so we'll go through this, but tools can really help. And where they can help is, we know, for example, let's say I have a municipal office. Maybe today in our registry, it's one asset. We built it in 1970, where we flagged it with an 80-year life cycle. It's not really giving a true indication of the needs, financial needs of that asset. So having that centralized repository where we can put all of our different assets in, we can track where they are, we can track the condition, when they went into service, what needs do they have, and what's it going to cost to ultimately replace that, is going to give that central source of truth for staff to be able to access. Right now in a lot of local governments, that's segmented. It's in different various Excel sheets, and staff maybe lack the confidence to be able to make a decision because they don't know if they have all the data. So having that registry really helps collect the data, store it in a central place, and we now have good business practices to say this is where our data happens to be stored. Another key element is condition data and attribute data. We know, for example, there might be strategies that we can apply to certain assets, but if we don't know the material type, we don't have it documented, we're not able to really properly forecast that. So a lot of governments are now turning to say, we know we have to do this because of OREG, but can we start doing this because it actually makes sense for us and it helps us reduce costs? And if we're going to do that, let's have some standardization of who's responsible to collect that data and how. Where does it go into? It goes into the tools. How is it collected and how often? So a lot of folks are implementing these best practices behind the scenes in addition to tools. And it makes it really easy to onboard someone else that's come on and say, here's how we manage our data. Here's the data that's important to us. Not necessarily going to be the same as, say, St. Thomas or London, but here's the data we need to make decisions. The other piece is looking at life cycle management. So we know maintenance and operation costs can be quite significant. If you look at the full life cycle of an asset, that initial acquire cost typically is only 30% of the total cost of that asset, depending on who you talk to, 30 to 40%. That other cost is all the costs to maintain, to modify, to improve, to, from everything from operational maintenance to capital projects, being able to extend that life of that asset. So when we acquire a new asset or we manage our assets, we want to be looking at that long-term plan to make sure, do we have the right resources available to manage that asset over its full life? Okay, that's where tools can help. So as part of our AMPs, we have to tell the government, the province, how are we managing the assets? What are the things that we're doing to our assets? But now we can start looking at finding additional value to that. If we know here are the things we do, maybe we do a mill and pave, and it costs in our community $40 per meter square, and we do a resurfacing, we're able to start looking at the justification, say, well, if we don't do anything to this road, we're only going to get 25 years out of it. But if staff do these right activities at the right time, we'll get closer to 55. And we can start looking at cost avoidance strategies and really being able to make sure that every asset that we have, we know what that appropriate maintenance strategy for it happens to be. And at the end of the day, that is cost avoidance. Okay, we're looking at reducing that. We're looking at if we pick the right projects at the right time, again, we're extending that life and we're able to save our ratepayers money. Okay. The other piece that's quite a big element of asset management is risk. So we know not all assets in our community have the same value to us. Financially, yes, but the consequence of value is, how does that asset not being functional when we need it, how does that negatively impact our citizens? Are we going to get a rush of phone calls if the community center fails, or an individual component within the community center that we weren't tracking fails and shuts it down? That's a pretty significant consequence of failure. versus the probability of failure, looking at that data. Well, what's the condition? How long should we get from a useful life perspective? So boiling it down into that single number that says, what's that risk on our assets? And again, the tools can help with that too. And again, this really helps us prioritize. I work with a lot of governments across Ontario where this becomes a pretty big conversation at budget time. Well, how does that capital project fit into our risk and our levels of service? Is it asset management based decisions, or is it reactionary decisions where we're getting a few calls on this road and we're going to fix it because we got a few phone calls, even though maybe it's low risk and we would be better off to spend our money somewhere else. Okay? Very easy to understand as well for decision makers and to prioritize those projects. The other piece is levels of service. So with our reg, they want us to do proposed levels of service. They want us to come back and say, what are our proposed levels of service and how do we plan to get those into a 10-year period? And a lot of folks overly complicate levels of service. Really what it is picking data points that help us communicate to yourself, council, and to citizens, how is our local government performing? Are we on the right track? That could be as simple as number of pothole complaints, as simple as, do we have a strategic plan where we want to modernize certain areas of our municipality, and how are we on target with that strategic plan? Are we moving in the right direction? So there's really just KPI to help guide decision making, and at a basic level, it can be condition, it can be risk and cost. Okay, and often folks will boil that down, as I mentioned. Maybe our target reinvestment rate is 4%, but it's currently 2%. Maybe we want to have an average condition of our roads of a PCI of 70, but maybe we're at 65 today, and we want to be able to communicate what's it going to cost over the next 10 years to increase that condition, reduce risk. So really just having those KPIs. And I think if I was to leave with anything, I would say this levels of service is probably the most important piece for council. Really at the end of the day, we can look at a slow incremental erosion of capital service levels. But if staff can't demonstrate that in a impact in a long-term way, in a financial way, they can't say this is the long-term impact of our decisions. It really means that council can't make that judgment in the absence of information. Okay? So the more information for council, the more empowerment you have to make those decisions and be able to see how those trends impact levels of service in the long term. Not sure if anybody has any questions.
Thank you for that, Jeff. And I will open it up to any questions from staff or council. Anyone have anything for Jeff at this time? You must have did a great job, Jeff, and I see no questions here. I have one, and it goes to your service. Are you more than a software company, or what exactly could you bring to the table?
Yeah, great question. So we have two main divisions. The one division, software tools, but the other piece that we do that I think complements the tools quite well is we do have a full-fledged advisory team. So we will build asset management plans. Typically, when we build asset management plans, we're doing it in our client software tools. Which saves a little bit of money at the end of the day, because if you're building an AMP, it becomes this PDF document. Oftentimes it can sit on the shelf. So one of our approaches is let's build that AMP in the software tools. That way we're documenting how you do life cycle, how you do risk, and then staff are just trained on the tools, and they can continue to more have a living and breathing asset management plan versus that document that sits on the shelf. So we add a lot of value in that. We also have a lot of great metadata across Ontario. We're working with close to 70% of the province, which really helps us when helping local governments determine the replacement costs. Even if we don't have good replacement cost data that's local, we can compare to other municipalities in the area and really help improve that data so that we're always going to have some assumptions in our AMP, but if we can reduce the number of those, then we've got more accurate capital projections, which really, I think, empowers council to make those longer term decisions.
Thank you. And one other question. Are you in any position to share municipalities you're working with?
Absolutely. So I can share, we work with Elmer, more on the software side with them, doing a bit of consulting. We work with all of Oxford County. We work with Simcoe County, Wellington County, working with, again, 70% of the province. So happy to provide, any references and names that, staff or council could speak with.
Okay.
They also, West Elgin and Southold are also both with citywide, so our neighbors, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Are there anything further for Jeff? Thank you, Jeff. Very informative. It's a big project and we're somewhat behind in Dutton Dunwich, but we'll get there.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, just to let council know, I have erred in our procedure policy and completely skipped item number 3, which is the adoption of draft minutes. They were distributed with the agenda package. Are there any corrections to the minutes? I see none. There being no corrections, the minutes are approved as distributed. Thank you. Moving on to number 7 on our agenda is Waste Connections, and it's our curbside collection services, and we have Chris Pollock, Operations Manager, with us. I see you there, Chris. I'm going to let you just go ahead. Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you guys okay. Can you hear me?
Not bad. Go ahead and we'll let you know if we have trouble.
Thank you everyone for allowing me the time to come on and speak with you today. So I was in a couple weeks ago and spoke with some councillors on some of the issues and the concerns that the municipality has brought up with Waste Connections. And I just wanted to go over some of the changes that we've made already and some further changes that we are making to ensure that your collection happens daily on the day that it's supposed to, within the areas that it is supposed to. So first and foremost, further training with all of our drivers that complete the routes in your area. A new change that we are making is we are pulling the gentleman who formerly was doing Southold. He's one of our senior drivers, never had an issue or complaint with the way that he runs his routes. He will be beginning service with you guys as of Tuesday of next week, and that will be his permanent role moving forward. The truck that he is driving is newer than the current one that's doing your route right now. So as far as breakdowns go, that again will be something of the past. We obviously can't guarantee that nothing will happen with a vehicle, but the one that he is in has been well maintained, doesn't have a track record of breaking down. And as far as his tenure with us, calling in sick or being away from the job is not something that happens other than his standard vacations that he takes. Management of the routes is being done directly through myself. My phone number has been given to all staff members within the council there. And if there's any issues or concerns, they will be addressed immediately. There will be no lag in between. We are reaching out to our drivers within the day, 4 times a day, morning when they get there, halfway through the morning, in the afternoon twice, and before the driver leaves the area, he is messaging us as well, just letting us know that he has completed the day. If there's any homes that do not have the garbage out or recycling out, pictures will be taken of the sites, not of the homes or anything like that, but just of the curb where there is no items to be picked up, and they will notify us that this was the case. We also have our geotab trackers that can show us every street that they go down to, how many stops they make in a day, so that we can better track what we have going on within your roads. So really, it's communication and a new person that's a senior tenure within our facility here.
Thank you, Chris. I'm going to open the floor up to questions, but I'd like to begin with the last time we had some concerns with the pickup of garbage and some were missed. Chris showed up in this office at that time, and I was present, and we were having a meeting on another item. And I know Tracy was here, and Tara, I believe, was here, and other employees, and myself and Murray. So I want to commend you for that, Chris. You took ownership of this and you walked into the lion's den. It would not have been easy for you, but you did that. So you've taken that step, and I just wanted to make mention to council of what you had done and have done since. So at this time, if council has any questions, go ahead. Chris is here to answer them.
Hi, Chris, Ken Loveland, Deputy Mayor. I appreciate your coming in and explaining what you've done to us. And, you know, I don't think we're trying to be unreasonable in our requests. I think the big thing is, as you said, communication. If there's a problem and our staff can be notified, then I think that solves a lot of our concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I'm not going to hide behind the fact that the previous manager who was looking after your account was not held accountable for returning the messages and phone calls in a timely fashion. I know just as well, if a resident calls, you guys need to get back to them as soon as possible. We can't leave it till after 4:30 messaging the municipality where nobody is there, then the resident doesn't know what to do with their recycling or their garbage. You know, we don't want to leave stuff outside on the curb. I know I'm a resident, and if nobody's going to come pick up my stuff, I just need to know that, right? And that's the very least that we can do is communicate with you guys. As soon as we know something's going on, if one of our assets is down, you guys need to know about that. Are we coming out with another truck? Yes or no? Regardless of what the answer is, at least you know what's going on. So being open with our communication is the number one thing that we can fix here on our end, and we can own that.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Anything further from staff or? And I know you've got a direct line of communication with staff in Dutton Dunwich. And we're headed on the right path here, Chris. So we thank you for that, and we thank you for attending and explaining what you've done to remedy the situation.
Absolutely. And just so that everybody knows, I'm looking forward to seeing all of your faces this Friday because I will be the one doing the pickups. And if something's missed tomorrow, you can just call me on my phone because I'm also going to be the one driving around. So I should be there pretty quickly to pick it up.
That's interesting. I'd like to know what route is Friday. Maybe I'll stand by the curb.
That I will be driving right past the municipal building.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much, guys.
Okay. Number 8 on the agenda is the Drainage Department, and it is a request for drain improvement, the David Carroll Drain number 3 from the Barfoots. It's their pretty self-explanatory. Resolution, please, Clerk Tara.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives and decides to proceed with the David Carroll Drain 3 improvement request under Section 78 of the Drainage Act received from Alan and Mary Barfoot, and instructs the clerk to notify Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority as required under Section 78(2) of the Drainage Act for drainage improvements, and that the requesting landowners be notified of council's decision to proceed, and that an engineer be appointed under the appropriate section of the Drainage Act after the 30-day time period from the notice of council's decision was sent to the Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority and OMAFRA has passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Now we have a planning issue, and this is a public meeting. So Clerk Tara, if you could, resolution please to get us into the public meeting.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Pemberton, that the public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 523 filed by Jamie McCaffrey on behalf of Joseph and Trina Livingstone for property located at 29861 Aaron Line opens at 5:35 PM. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. This is a public meeting as required by Section 34 of the Planning Act to afford any person an opportunity to make representation with respect to a proposed zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the subject property from agricultural A1 zone to exception special agricultural A2-22 zone and special rural residential RS zone. The subject property is locally known as 29861 Aaron Line in the municipality of Dutton Dunwich. Does any member of council have a disclosure of interest concerning the proposals? See none. What method of notice and when was notice given to the public for this meeting? Clerk Tarrant.
A sign was posted on the subject property by the June 9th, 2023 deadline, and notices were mailed to property owners within 120 meters of the subject property on June 7th, 2023.
Thank you. I will now ask our planner, Tracy, to present the report.
Thank you very much through you, Mr. Mayor. So you've seen this application come before you as part of the consent application E2523. So this zoning bylaw amendment was an application submitted by the applicant on behalf of the property owner as a condition of that severance application. So the requirements is to rezone the severed parcel from A1 to special rural residential to permit non-farm residential uses. And then the retained parcel, the farm, will be rezoned from A1 to an exception special agricultural zone A2-22. And the -22 specifically allows for a reduction in the minimum lot area from what's required as 20 hectares to 11.33 hectares in size. So application was circulated to property owners 120 meters of the site, internal and external agencies. There were no comments received of concern, and the applicant's agent, Courtney Sinclair, is here as well to help answer any questions. And I'm available to answer any questions as well at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Tracy. Have you received any comments from staff?
Yes, and they're summarized in the planner's report.
Did you receive any written submissions on this application?
Yes, and they're summarized in the planner's report.
Before I open the floor to questions from the public, please be advised that if any person from the public wishes to receive further information on the action of council regarding the passing of a bylaw on the proposed amendment, please ensure that they leave their name, address, and postal code with the clerk prior to leaving the meeting. I see no one online or in the gallery here. I will now open the meeting to the public. Is there any questions? Nobody has identified themselves virtually. Do council members or any member of the public have any further questions? Open it up to council. I see no questions or concerns. If there are no further questions, please be advised that any person wishing further information on the actions of council regarding the passing of a bylaw on the proposed amendment should leave their name, address, and postal code with the clerk prior to leaving the meeting. If you are not the applicant, you should request a copy of the decision, since it may be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal by the applicant or another member of the public. The last day to appeal is July 19, 2023. Okay, nothing further. Clerk Tara, please, resolution.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drulard, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the planner titled Application for Zoning Bylaw Amendment ZBA 5/23 29861 Aaron Line, Municipality of Dutton Dunwich, Jamie McCaffrey on behalf of Joseph and Trina Livingstone, dated June 28th, 2023, for information, and that Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich approves zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 5/23 for property located at 29861 Aaron Line from agricultural A1 zone to exception special agricultural A2-22 zone and special rural residential RS zone in accordance with the site-specific bylaw 2023-46. All in favor? And that's carried.
And before we finish with this, I just want to make note that Courtney Sinclair, representing the parties involved, has attended this meeting. Okay. Clerk Tara.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 5/23 filed by Jamie McCaffrey on behalf of Joseph and Trina Livingstone for property located at 29861 Aaron Line closes at 5:41 PM. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay. No questions, went through pretty easy. We're on to correspondence. There's nothing there. The consent agenda. Is there anything council would like to talk about on the consent agenda? Councillor
For you,
Goulart.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to highlight the code red and black brought forward by the town of Essex. I know this is an issue across the province, and I wouldn't be against supporting them, supporting their letter.
That issue, the same resolution and information came to county council as well. Of course, they look after our ambulance services here in the county of Elgin. It would be interesting to know our situation in Elgin as far as code reds and code blacks. I don't have that information, but that would be helpful, but we could still support what they're trying to do.
Absolutely. And if you'd like to maybe, maybe we can leave it and collect some information from the county, I just know it's been an ongoing provincial issue. So if we can help out our first responders and our emergency workers, I would certainly support that.
Okay, if I could just ask staff to reach out to the county, they would probably have that information. And it might not be good news, but we need it anyway. Okay, thank you. Councillor Dreyfus.
I just want to make note in reference to the strong mayor's 26 fast growing municipalities and the impact that obviously it's having on the province of Ontario. But it's interesting to me that they've had to pledge to 1.2 million units by 2031. So I'm curious what the pledge entails and how it will impact the province, and naturally wondering if a pledge actually determines funding for local municipalities. I know we're a small municipality, but we have our problems with wastewater and the commitment levels that we have to adhere to. Is there a relationship between pledging, even as a municipality, and potential funding down the road? So I'm just raising the question and concern, And I don't want to miss out on anything that could come down the line for small municipalities such as us. Just because we're not big, that doesn't mean we don't have a voice of concern. So, and I'm a little bit concerned about it. So to me, this appears to be a marriage between the province of Ontario and 26 cities. So I'm just raising the concern.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I've sat through a few seminars with, had lawyers from the states talking, and as you know, mayors there have way more power than we do. And the one I listened to, she can't believe that we're even going down that road. Like that, she says, I don't know how giving these mayors power is going to help your housing situation. And you're absolutely right. Because they're pledging to these amount of houses, any infrastructure funding that's there, because there's only a little bucket, as you know, with us, with our tax rate, there's only a little bucket of money. We're not going to see it. And that's what I'm really scared of, because we're the ones that need it. And I think that making this, I don't agree with this strong mirror thing. And I think it is going to skew the little bit of funding we're getting from the upper levels. I think it's going to be a problem, but that's just me. And I don't know, maybe I'm being a pessimist on this, but I don't see it being a good thing.
I'm just wondering if we could think of this a bit more in the sense, and maybe formalize a resolution asking for support from other municipalities. I don't know if that's an option for us, but I'm really concerned about it, to be honest with you.
And I don't know if it's actually too late to get a delegation to AMO or not on something like this. Might be something to be brought up, a concern that we are worried about the little pocket of funding money that there is available.
We have not heard back yet from AMO. I have asked for a delegation from finance, and I think maybe that would be the opportunity to direct them questions. We don't have to wait for that. And I understand, Councillor Dreyfus, you're attending AMO?
Yes.
Okay, so you will be with me when we talk to the minister, and we'll make note of these questions. But as far as a resolution prior to that, I think that has some merit, and we could investigate that. Further to that, I would ask maybe staff reach out to MPP Rob Flack's office and ask for some clarification on this issue and voice our concerns on this issue. Are we going to get left out? And we'll all see Rob Flack on Canada Day, and it doesn't hurt to ask him face to face where we're at, and he's receptive to that. So, and I think if enough councillors from Dutton Dunwich corner him on Canada Day, we will get his attention.
Growling.
It's warm. Nope.
Okay, thank you. Good discussion. Anything else on the consent agenda? I see nothing. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the items on the consent agenda be approved. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay. The clerk's report, number 12. Tara, I'll ask you to speak to that and what your plans are.
So everybody has a copy of the report, but we haven't done a large upgrade or review of our procedural bylaws since at least 2015. So there's been a lot of changes, especially with COVID and the hybrid models, and just kind of getting an update from the community on how we want to see our council meetings and what access is. So I'm just proposing that we do kind of a full review. We get one-on-ones with council to get your input on how you would like to see council meetings run. Get some input from the public on how they would like information brought to their attention. And then just, of course, our staff updates based on the new legislation that's out. Is there any questions?
Anything from council on that? I know Clerk Tara's done a lot of work already on our procedural bylaw and has made some subtle changes. And there's more probably can be done. So if nothing further, Clerk Tara, please.
Just one quick question.
Go ahead.
guess, I think the procedure bylaws from all the lower tier municipalities are pretty much generic. Is it something that everyone's looking at the same time, or are we just gonna be in any?
So there is a lot of variation between the municipalities right now with the procedural bylaws. I have also looked at the counties and through the AMCTO conference, I looked at a couple of others that are doing their procedural bylaw review. Port Hope and Kitchener did a really big community involved procedural bylaw review, but this one would be on our own, basically. I don't think any of the neighboring municipalities are doing a review right now.
So what made in Dutton Dunwich? Following the rules.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Getting it done and done.
Go ahead, Clerk Tara, resolution, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the clerk titled Procedural Bylaw Review 2023, dated June 28th, 2023 for information, and that council directs staff to undertake a comprehensive review of the procedural bylaw. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. We're to the CAO Treasurer's Report, and A is the Development Charges Background Study. CAO Tracy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On May 24th, council was presented with a development charge information session with Watson Associates. And we're bringing this report forward to see if there's an interest in getting the background study started so that we can be in place to have these development charges by 2024. I know that Daryl, when he was speaking to us, mentioned around 25,000. So I've estimated 30 time you have like advertising, office expenses and that. So this is just an estimate. But this report is to get council's thoughts on it and see where you want to go with this.
Thank you. Tracy, questions? Deputy Mayor Loveland.
I guess not maybe a question so much as a statement, and I'm not 100% sure on development charges yet, but I guess my concern is it's $30,000 would be taken out of contingency if we start that now. I would really rather see this put in as part of our budget deliberations this fall, and I know Tracy doesn't like that maybe, but I am concerned there's some other issues out there that may come up. Drainage is one. I think that we may be overspent on drainage with all the assessments on drainage we're completing, but that's my feeling for what it's worth.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Dreyfus.
I guess my concern is, like I'm all in favor of moving forward. That's my point of view, but I guess the greater concern is I don't want to miss out on any opportunity for development charges at this point, and waiting might deter that, right? So that's my concern, and I look at it as an investment, but we got to look at the big picture too. I'm not disagreeing with Ken, but I think I'm concerned that we'll miss out on opportunity. So that's again just a statement as well. So
Anything further? Councillor Pemberton.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we're all concerned about the financial impacts. So I agree with both Deputy Mayor Loveland and Councillor Dreyfus. I guess my opinion is I'd be as concerned that we may miss out on opportunities that if we don't get these in place, they have to be phased in, they have to be everything else. So I would be concerned that we would be missing out as well if we don't move forward with it. So I guess that's my thought on that one at this time.
Councillor Dreyfus.
Tracy, one question: what would the timeline be if we were to start the process now?
Well, it would be hopefully ready for 2024. So, because it's going to take 4 to 6 months. So, yeah.
Anything further? I'll just, my thoughts on the matter. The problem with this, it takes so long to to get it set up and implement. You know, if you could say we got DC charges and tomorrow you're off and running, that's not the case here. So if we wait for 2024, chances are we won't have it till the next year. And that's my concern. And it's got talked about not only last council, but the one I sat on prior to that. It keeps coming up. We keep not doing it. And it's not an easy decision, but it's one that has to be made. Either we're going to do it or we're not. So that's my opinion. But everyone has to have their input into this one. So is there a resolution prepared to deal with this issue? Clerk Tara, go ahead.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the CAO treasurer titled Development Charges Background Study dated June 28th, 2023 for information, and that council authorize Watson and Associates to proceed with a development charges background study, and that the estimated $30,000 cost of the study come from the contingency reserve. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. B, we have the Morris Street Iona, and Murray, are you with us?
Yes, I am, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, just some background, and everybody knows the situation here. This was discussed prior. It was included in the budget, but Murray has some thoughts on the matter, and we're open to hearing from you, Murray. So I'm going to let you lead the discussion on the Morris Street capital project.
Could I interrupt, Mayor
Yep.
Hintz?
Yep.
I'm going to call a point of order here. This is a reconsideration of a decision that's been made twice by council, and we have a procedure that we have to go through to do that in our procedure bylaw, section 1024. So we need a resolution that allows us to bring this matter back to the table. It has to be adopted by 2/3 of the majority of the members of council, which would be 4 out of 5 to make 2/3. And then we would have the debate.
Okay. Thank you for that. Does anybody want to make that resolution? We have to,
I understand the procedural line.
yeah, in order to bring this forward. Is anyone prepared to move that at this time? I do not see anything moving forward on that one, Murray. So it's off the table at this time. Okay. Let's move to C, the 2023 job descriptions, clerk and CAO treasurer. Everyone received them in their package. Is there any discussion on that? Councillor Pemberton.
Yeah, so I spoke with Tracy earlier this week about it, and in reviewing it, the discussion we had was about possibly adding deputy clerk to her role. We always have to have a clerk on staff. So if Tara was away or on vacation or something, we need somebody to be able to sign bylaws, sign other marriage certificates, things like that. It's not necessarily, I think that's where it needs to be currently. When we do a reorganization down the road, we could look at other options, but I think for now, it's important that we have that in place. So I guess I would ask that we add deputy clerk to the CAO treasurer job description.
Here's your new hat.
Tara and I had a discussion about this after you and I talked.
Yeah.
And I think we are in agreement, we're going to actually add it to Kate's job, the executive assistant, because she's been trained as a clerk as well. So 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 Tara doesn't have to, she can delegate by just in writing who she puts on there. We can do that in the interim since she's off next week. Then we can add it to, Kate's job description and just add it as in the absence of, Tara for any reason. And because if it's in writing, it's for a certain time. If she gets hit by a bus, we might not have it in writing, so, or a tractor, as I say, or a deer. But we can have it right in Kate's job description that in the absence, she would be the acting clerk or whatever. So I think, yeah, just makes more sense. She's been trained as a clerk, whereas I haven't. So yeah, so.
No, and I'm happy with that as long as we have it somewhere, because in the original discussion, we didn't have it anywhere, so
Yeah.
as long as we're
No, good call.
cognizant of that
It
and.
was a good call, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, anything further on the job descriptions? Nope. Okay,
Oh, by the way,
resolution.
Sarah, that was a really good job because I had to flip back and forth to see what you took out, which part. So it was good. Thank you.
Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Loveland, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the CAO Treasurer titled 2023 Job Descriptions, Clerk and CAO Treasurer dated June 28th, 2023 for information. All in favor? And that's carried.
And D, under Tracy's report, is the truck purchase approval. Go ahead. Tracy.
Yeah, this is just coming back, so we're following our policies to the T. I do not have approval to spend anything over 50,000, so we need a resolution to buy this truck, even though council's, that you've approved it in principle, we just need the resolution, so.
Okay. Resolution, please, Clerk Tara.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the CAO Treasurer titled 2023 Truck Purchase Approval dated June 28th, 2023 for information, and that council authorize the purchase of the 2023 pickup truck from Disbro Chevrolet. All in favor?
One quick question, though. I think we should add the purchase amount on there.
Oh, yeah, we can. I actually have the actual invoice with me.
58,000 and
$58,801.39 without HST.
58,
801.39.
39.
Yep.
would anybody like the resolution read again? We're just adding the amount. Good. Okay, call the question.
All right, all in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And we have the Executive Assistance Report, the Annual Accessibility Report. Any discussion on that? That was work done with the county. Yeah, go ahead, Councilor.
Yeah, I thought the report was good, and I'm glad to see that all the municipalities had their list of things that they were working on. Just one question, Tracy, the website, the citizens portal was in there, and I'm not sure, like, what do you mean by that in our website, so that they can,
So they can go on, sorry, through you, Mr. Wright, they can go on the website and set up their own portal so that everything they're interested in will come right up.
okay,
Eventually, we will have it so that they, hopefully, so they can get on and check their water bills and utility or tax bills and things like that. That'll be a bit down the road because you have to get Keystone to work with it, of course. But yeah, for now, it's like they can set up their garbage routes or their whatever else they might want to have to look at on a regular basis instead of looking landfill hours, those kind of things where we were, yeah, so, yeah, the calendars, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Okay, anything further? Clerk Tara, resolution, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drulard, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the Executive Assistant titled Annual Accessibility Report 2022 dated June 28th, 2023 for information, and that the attached Elgin County Joint Annual Accessibility Status Report 2022 and the Elgin County and Local Municipal Partners Joint Multi-Year Accessibility Plan 2021 to 2026 be approved. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, unfinished business. I don't see anything. Any new business? Yeah, go ahead, Counselor.
I'm just, this came out of our recreation meeting the other day, and it's in relation to the buttermilk bog. It was unclear whose responsibility it was. And I know it's come up, Mayor Hens, a few times, from Marg Halls of, things that need to be done. So, Marg, is quite concerned about it. So I'm just sharing what we have agreed to work on with the buttermilk bog. And apparently there's, policies, as well that were written for the buttermilk bog that necessarily haven't been adhered to. So we're trying to sort that part of it out as well. So I've asked, Marg to, form a committee of, people that are really interested because it's unique in nature, right? There's 130 species of trees. There's something like 30 that are, at risk, and there's some rare species in there as well. So it takes a knowledge base to manage that as well. So I've asked her to put a committee together, and then, I've committed to, putting some meetings together that we can maybe manage this a little bit better and, get some people trained other than Marg, to help manage the bog itself. And I think if we can get those interested people together, it should take care of itself again but basically right now it's Marg Halls. So, I just wanted to update council. If you have any other further direction, please let me know, because I don't know how else to get this thing finished. So, but, anyway, I just thought I'd pass that on to you because it is a problem and it is a unique, it's a unique habitat.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, are those municipal trees? Then they will have to be added to our asset management system within a year or two. So it'd be nice to have somebody knowledgeable and updating that on a regular basis for sure.
Yeah, so the meetings, the purpose of the meetings would be to identify the species, to actually have a document that says this is what it is, a map possibly, and then have a management system. Now they're weed eating around trees and they're hurting the trees, right? So it needs to be dealt with, and I think we need to support Mark with the effort, so.
The municipality is cutting the grass and doing that stuff right now, currently, yeah. And that's a problem in the park as well, the girdling of trees. So I know that message has gotten through to staff before to not do that, and maybe it needs to get conveyed again. So Councillor Drouillard, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Do we have a trail committee? We do, don't we, in the municipality?
We have a Trans-Canada Trail Committee.
Yes, and I'm wondering, because of similar interest, if when we're looking for folks, that might be who we reach out to. That's just a suggestion. That perhaps because of the similar interest, it might be beneficial to Marg and to help Henry with trying to solve this.
Councillor Pemberton is the council member on that committee now. So if he wants to take that forward, and you could ask the question.
Yeah, I'm more than willing to ask the question and see if there's anybody there that would like to assist with that. I know they're pretty passionate about there, and Mark Halls is on that one as well. So I'm sure she's probably reached out to them already, but I have no problem bringing that forward with them, but I would assume it's already been taken care of.
Okay. Thank you for that. Is there any announcements? I see none. And if I could suggest we take a short break as we get ready and enter into closed. With council's approval. we will do that. So Clerk Tara, would you like to get us into closed?
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich now moves into a session of the meeting that shall be closed to the public at 6:10 PM in accordance with section 2392 of the Municipal Act, SO 2001, Chapter 25, for discussion of the following matters. A, labor relations or employee negotiations, section 2392D of the Municipal Act, Water Department. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, we'll take a short break. We're back in public. The only thing we have left is proposed bylaws. 19A, bylaw 2023-46. Zoning bylaw amendment, 523 McCaffrey Livingston. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Drulard, that bylaw 2023-46, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2022-50 for a parcel of land municipally known as 29861 Aaron Line, be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And B, bylaw 2023-47, confirm the proceedings. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Pemberton, that bylaw 2023-47, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the municipal council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich, be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, we're down to the summer months, one meeting a month here, July, August, with the new time. Everybody's aware of that. The one we're waiting for, the adjournment. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Dreyfus, that the meeting of the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich closes at 6:42 PM. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay.
Who all would like a hard copy of the proposal?